A tough, rational new federal law designed to fight terrorism and to secure our borders and ports is now being criticized. Montana's Governor Brian Schweitzer is leading a revolt against a new driver's license law, a revolt of governors. And as Bill Tucker now reports, the governor's opposition could make life difficult for state residents.
Few states are as committed to the opposition of Real ID as Montana. Real ID, passed by Congress and signed into law by President Bush 3 years ago, establishes a national set of standards for states' driver's licenses to meet in order to be considered secure licenses. The Montana legislature has voted not to comply with the act. Now Montana's governor, Brian Schweitzer, is taking the lead in what he hopes will become a revolt against the federal legislation. In letters to the governors of 17 other states, Governor Schweitzer is, quote, asking you to join with me in resisting the DHS coercion to comply with the provisions of Real ID. I would like us to speak with one unified voice. Those opposed to Real ID call it an unfunded mandate and raise privacy concerns, saying compliance amounts to a Big Brother-style national ID, a claim that proponents dispute.
Actually, it's not a national ID card because it's not produced by the national government. It's not produced by the federal government. It's produced by state government. So by definition, legally and constitutionally, it's a state ID.
States are allowed to opt out of Real ID. It is not mandatory. But if they opt out, their driver's licenses will not be considered secure by federal standards. That means citizens of those states won't be able to use their driver's licenses to enter federal buildings or board airplanes. States have until May 11th to file for an extension of the rules. An extension gives a state until 2014 before they must meet the requirements. And so far, 34 states have either set aside money or legislatively begun to accommodate the move to comply with Real ID, according to the Coalition for a Secure Driver's License. Only 5 have passed opposition opposing it, suggesting that Governor Schweitzer is perhaps waging a little bit of an uphill battle here, Lou.
Well, it's an uphill battle. It is also, I've talked with Governor Schweitzer on a number of issues in years past. Typically a rational fellow. This seems to be absolutely straightforwardly counter to the interests of the citizens of Montana.
You would think so, but the state has been stalwart in their opposition to it. Has a weird alliance of groups out there. The National Rifle Association and the ACLU have actually gotten together to fight Real ID in the state. Well, I haven't got much problem with taking them both on if they're wrong, and if they're joined together here. Boy, that sounds like a marriage made in hell, doesn't it? The ACLU and the NRA. It's an interesting set of bedfellows. The governor's got quite a reach there. We're going to find out more about that. Bill Tucker, thank you very much. Well, we'll be talking with Montana's governor about his Real ID revolt tomorrow. Governor Brian Schweitzer joins us here on the broadcast tomorrow evening. Michigan is one of 8 states that handed out driver's licenses to illegal aliens, gave them away. But a few weeks ago, that state's attorney general issued a ruling that stops Michigan from effectively granting illegal aliens legal status. Just a short while ago here, Michigan's Secretary of State announced, and I think it's just been within the past hour, that illegal aliens will no longer be able to receive Michigan driver's licenses. Joining us now is Michigan Attorney General Mike Cox. I want to just say to you, Attorney General, you have done something that very few other state officials have done, which is to interpret law and the context of our society in what seems to me to be a remarkably rational fashion.
Well, thank you, Lou. Obviously, in Michigan, we're right on the international border. We have actually 3 ports of entry in Detroit, Port Huron, and the Upper Peninsula, 3 international bridges, an international tunnel. And it's a major concern, a security concern here in Michigan. And so we stepped up and did what we could. I think we came down with a very simple prospect, that here in Michigan, we can't say someone's a resident if the federal government says they're here illegally. And recognizing the U.S. Constitution, which I know you put in your books, under Article 6 says the federal government has the power to say who's here illegally, who isn't. And a state can't touch or change that.
Would you again, Attorney General, say those few words? That the state of Michigan cannot make an illegal alien a resident.
It's that simple, Lou. One of my predecessors issued an opinion that if someone was quote unquote a resident of Michigan, that means they were employed in the state of Michigan, that we didn't have to look at whether they were illegal here illegally. And of course, that's wrong, and we changed that opinion of law, and now you saw the Secretary of State is going along with it. And at the end of the day, you know, the law matters, and the law is supposed to protect people, and that's what we're doing here in Michigan.
Certainly. And do you think, Attorney General, that this straightforward interpretation of law and the Constitution will be attractive to others charged with enforcing our laws in other states, say 49 other states?
Right. well, Lou, I hope so. As you indicated, there's still 7 other states out there right now that still issue driver's licenses to illegals. I would direct them to the back of one of your books, The War on the Middle Class, or to their copy of the United States Constitution, and look at Article 6 and see what it says there about federal supremacy. Now, sometimes the states, we fight against the federal government, rightfully so, but this is a case where you know, the federal authorities determine who's illegal, who's not, and states shouldn't add or detract from that. And certainly when it involves something as important as who's here legally and who isn't.
Attorney General Mike Cox, congratulations on what you've accomplished, the reasoning. Also, I knew I'd find a great, a terrific attorney and a great American. I didn't know you would be quite so well read. But thank you very much, Attorney General Mike Cox.
Well, thank you, Lou.
Thank you. Coming up here next, the issue of race in this